All right, everyone. Moving on to the next part here. Let's talk about the games from last week. Now, this time we're going to the weekend. We got 8 games that went through. Everyone did play this set, so let's briefly go over it. Angel City and Houston already have a video up here, but just for the quick rundown, if you're only watching the singular part, the matchup was a clash of 2 of the remaining undefeateds. At that point, because Portland had dropped on Wednesday, this was the last 2 teams who were both undefeated and untied. And so what we saw was Angel City and Houston having a showdown Friday night, and Angel City coming away with a 2-1 victory in their own building. This was despite trailing early thanks to a Maggie Graham goal from Houston. It led to a lot of back and forth going, but it was not until the second half when Jansdotter and Tiernan both managed to rack up goals within about 5 minutes of each other. So by the time we hit minute 50, we were already at the end of the scoring. Overall, pretty balanced game. Houston did outshoot Angel City, but it was even on shots on target. Angel City also owned possession advantage, about 52 to 48. So it was a good overall setup for the 2 teams. They both showed a lot of success, but now it'll be time to see what they can manage in the coming weeks. With that said, let's move off of this one. I don't want to spend too much time on it since I've already talked it down. Instead, let's go to the Utah Royals, who, fresh off of stealing a point off of Washington, came up with a 2-1 victory over Boston Legacy, who remain winless and pointless through the first 3 matches. On this one, you had Tatum Milazzo getting a goal in the 33rd minute to start the scoring, and Lara Prasnika had a quick penalty kick in the 50th minute. To go through that for a moment, that was just a foul being committed in the box, and that was given to they got to choose their shooter. For the record, it was Mina Tanaka who was actually the one fouled. But with that, it was 2-0, and Boston did manage to get a late goal. Traore managed to get the goal there in the 72nd minute. But by that point, it just kind of put the pressure on, but it didn't lead to any success. 6 minutes into injury time, Kiana Palacios of Utah did get a yellow card, but it wasn't at a point where they were in danger of a penalty kick, so it still worked out. They still pick up the victory. Overall, Boston did end up holding possession for longer and getting more shots. Just so happened the higher quality shots, the shots on target, had a slight edge on Utah. So it was more efficiency versus actual control. And so despite Boston playing a fairly solid effort, it still wasn't enough to change anything this go around. Boston does have another home match coming up this week, so we will see what they can manage. Moving on, we have Denver Summit and Washington Spirit. This one was the big attendance game of the week. Denver Summit were playing at Mile High Stadium, so this was a chance for them to really showcase themselves in front of almost a full stadium. They had over 63,000 present. Stadium, I believe, has a capacity of around 65, so very good attendance. As for Washington, another red flag kind of game for them. It was a 0-0 draw. Sorry, a 1. And so, I don't know what it says there. Hold on a second. Look at that. Let's see what happened there. No, it's 0-0. Why does it say 1-1? I think it might have been a carryover from a week ago. I don't remember what was in that spot, but I must not have changed it because I noticed it was a draw. So, yeah, that'll be, change that to 0-0. But, yeah, needless to say, this is another concerning one for the Spirit, who come away again with only a point. They've racked up 3 points so far in 4 games, and it's all off of draws. They did have the possession advantage, 53 to 47. They had a slight shot edge. The shots on target, though, were about equal. So the big concern going in as we're about to approach this 2-week break is what is Washington going to be doing in these 2 weeks to reset themselves? Obviously, they might still get a win here this upcoming week. That would at least get them off the schneid in terms of the win column, but it is definitely becoming a concern. If you are a Washington fan, especially if you end up dropping points again and facing another draw, like you're wondering, when are we going to get something started here? Like, this is becoming a big issue. You're trying to rack up points, and you're dropping them fairly often here in a 30-match season. You'd be a sixth of the way through the season and potentially no victory. So this next one is going to be very important for them. All right, moving on to Portland and Kansas City. This one, again, another big concern for Kansas City. They got that win in the opening week, and it has just been a 3 straight week fail fest as they take a 2-0 loss to Portland, who was able to recover from their defeat at the hands of San Diego. Pulled off 2 goals. Specifically, the first one was off a penalty kick in the second half. And that was as the result of Elizabeth Ball getting a foul in the box. So it led to Olivia Moultrie taking the shot. Manages to get them up 1. And then Rylan Turner, 10 minutes later, racks up another goal. So suddenly, we're looking at a 2-0 deficit. And Kansas City does end up taking another yellow card later, just trying to aggressively get back into it. Kayla Sharples takes that one. And yeah, I have to look at this like, if you are Kansas City, what is happening here? Is it the result of just you're not clicking the way you were last year because the pieces you lost were that important? And they are also trying to do this with some different staff members. So it is a different team, and it does appear to have affected them negatively. We'll see what happens after the break. Like, maybe the late April and May games will look a lot stronger for them. But yeah, right now this is a big red flag issue, and I'm sure the fans of the Current are getting concerned. Meanwhile, Seattle Reign, despite having a miserable week little while back, taking the loss to Portland, they have come back with 2 wins in a week. This one, a 2-1 victory over Racing Louisville. And in this case, they had control pretty much from the beginning. Maddie Mercado gets a goal in the 10th minute. Nerila Mondesir takes one in the 41st. And they eventually do give up one late to Macy Blackburn in injury time of the second half. But by that point, they were still in pretty firm control, and time was nearly up. So, and for the record, Seattle's goal was the result of a misplay. The first one was a misplay on the keeper. But, yeah, it's interesting looking at Seattle this go-around. They played their game again in Spokane, so lower attendance, but still a pretty impressive showing for the size of the stadium. Just watching through just some highlights of it, I still say Louisville is very good at offensive generation, and that was very true here. They had 19 shots to Seattle's mere 6. 6 shots on target to Seattle's 2, but they didn't control possession very well. They are a team that is very attack-heavy and struggles defensively, and it came back to bite them here. Away games, that'll probably be a much bigger problem. So I'm looking at Louisville and thinking this might not be the team that will be a playoff squad this year. It seems like enough teams upgraded that it's going to be difficult for them to rack up enough wins on the road to keep themselves up in position. Right now they sit at 1 point, but they do have a chance to play some lower tier teams. Their matchup coming up this week will be extremely important. Still 3 matches to go here. Bay FC coming back after a rough week before. Take on North Carolina Courage and take a 3-1 victory in a cross-country matchup. They actually had all 3 goals within 15 minutes. So Alex Pfeiffer gets one in the 20th, Kiara Berry in the 30th, Dorian Bailey in the 34th. And it's not until Monica Masakubo gets a goal in the 65th that North Carolina gets off the schneid at all there. North Carolina is another team that I had up a lot higher that is starting soft. And meanwhile, Bay FC, 2 early wins, they're actually a little bit up in the standings. Now, I've seen enough flaws in them to know that that's probably not going to be maintained, but they do look like they can achieve decent heights when they get the opportunity. And this one, it was an offensive effort. The possession was almost even, 51-49. But they dominated in shots on target, 7-2. Had a slight lead in regular shots, 14-13. There was a good measure of control going here. And it's surprising to see them do it when they're crossing the country. That tells me more North Carolina didn't have their rhythm set. And it's just shown me a lot of the teams that I had projected near the top, like Washington, North Carolina, Gotham, whether it's because these teams are being targeted specifically by their opponents because they know they're the big threats, or whether it's because they just didn't have the training camp to click right. These teams are not ready to be playing at the top, and we'll see what they look like after a couple more weeks now that they've gotten up to game speed. But as for right now, these opening weeks have been rough. The game we live streamed here, San Diego and Chicago. I talked quite a bit on this one at length. We'll just go through quickly. Leah Godfrey getting a goal in the 56th, Melanie Barcenas in the 72nd. A lot of offensive effort, though, by San Diego. It never felt like Chicago was in this. The possession ended up being about just under 60-40, so it was 59-41. Chicago had one shot on target the entire game. I remember that one, and it was extremely soft. It was very easy to field by the keeper. They only had 2 shot attempts the entire game. The other one also fairly memorable. It missed pretty wide of the goal, but at least it had gotten past it. In terms of the shots on San Diego's side, 20 shots, 8 of them on target. Just watching through it, it seemed pretty clear that Chicago has trouble with 50-50 balls. Their midfield isn't really built to take balls through the air. And so what you saw was the team clamping down on defense, a lot of ground kicks, trying to generate something off the ground. And that's difficult to do when you have a high-level opponent. And so, yeah, San Diego just pretty thoroughly controlled matters the whole way through. San Diego, their offense seems to have their own idea of what they want to do. They have a few players that they run the ball through at all times, and it worked out in their favor on this one. Now, whether that will be good long-term, it'll be hard to tell. It does give opponents a chance to really observe something to target, but for the time being, it's going okay. And they've at least done enough to get themselves up in the standings. And now we move on to Sunday. Gotham FC, once again at their home, facing the Orlando Pride, and it's another 0-0 effort. Gotham really having some difficulties here with scoring. And this needs to be addressed as soon as they can here. Because although they have 1 victory and 1 defeat, and then a bunch of draws, and most of them being 0-0, what we're looking at with Gotham right now is a team that has a negative goal differential in spite of the fact that it's going to be hard to get a positive goal differential if you end up with zeros most of the time. And so far, we are looking at a Gotham team who has scored 0 goals in 3 out of their 4 games. And so they did manage a singular goal in their opener against Boston, and that remains their only goal. Now, they were more aggressive this time around. They managed to control the ball for 61% of the time. You're looking at a team that almost won the shot battle. It was 10-11, and it was 4-2 in shots on target in favor of Orlando. But at least they're trying to generate a little more control and a little more offense. But yeah, Gotham needs to make a lot of changes. And it might need to be a signing. Maybe it's people getting healthy. It's unclear yet, but right now they do not look like the team who was hot at the end of last season. In any case, that is all of last week, and now we get ready for the weekend games here before we hit the April break. So stay tuned for that one. The preview will be up shortly. Talk to you soon.